Hello and welcome to a new tutorial series inside Construct 3. If you have Construct 2, this will work as well. Also, if you are working with a free version of either, I believe we stay under the 50 event limit, so you should be able to complete this project with a free version. Today we are creating a mini golf game, or putt-putt, or I don't know, it probably has 100 different names, but this is it. We have our course set up, we have the hole that we need to reach, and here's our little ball. We have a little aiming line to show us where we're aiming, and this is set up in a portrait resolution, so this would fit your mobile device like a game that you would play on your phone or tablet or something like that. So we have over here, we have two buttons, a swing and a reset, and then we also have a meter here that tells us how hard we're going to hit the ball to get it across the screen. A couple of other little features is sand trap, and we also have some water. And these both react to the physics that our golf ball is going to have, which the reason I chose this type of game to create was because it takes a pretty good use or advantage of using the physics engine inside of Construct 3. So let's go ahead and play it and see what it looks like. So I have this set up with touch controls. So if you were playing this on a mobile device, you would just touch your finger to the screen. In our case, I'm on a desktop. The touch controls is the same as your mouse control. So I'm going to click and hold, and now I can drag this aiming device around, and wherever I decide to aim, I lift up, and as soon as I lift up, our meter starts moving, and the higher the meter goes, the harder we hit the ball. For example, if I hit swing when it's up high, it shoots it pretty far across the screen, and then once it stops moving, it resets, and we can now move the aiming device around again. So I'm going to aim it at the hole, and I'm going to show you something. If I hit it really hard, it flies right over the hole. And this is to mimic what it would be like in real life. If you've ever played golf or seen golf on TV, you know if they hit the ball too hard, it will just jump right over the hole or go in and pop right out. So that's something we've mimicked here. So I'm going to try it again. I'm going to aim it, release, get our meter going, and I'm going to hit it a little bit softer this time. And there we go. And then it tells me how many shots it took, and then it takes us to the next course, and we're ready to go. I'll show you what this sand pit looks like real quick. If we go over it, well, I didn't hit it hard enough. Let's try that again. Oh, looks like we have some layering issues. We'll take care of that though. So the sand pit, I don't know if you're able to see it, but the sand pit slows the ball down quite significantly. So we've implemented a lot of real-life instances using the physics engine inside of Construct 3. So I think that's pretty exciting. I'm going to go ahead and get us set up. So let's create a new project. I'm going to call this Mini Golf Tutorial, and I'm going to pick the SD portrait 9x16. That gives us a X value of 480 and a Y value of 854. Alright, let's go ahead and create that. Alright, and right away I'm going to highlight our viewport size, which is that 480 by 854. I'm going to Control C to copy on the keyboard, and then we can click inside the layout, highlight our layout size, Control V to paste, hit enter. Now we're at the right size. As I'm getting started here, I'll go ahead and explain like I do in all my tutorial series. I am working with a subscription version of Construct 3, so yours may or may not look like mine, and I will be using some features that aren't available in the free version. One of those is the subfolders, and that has no impact on the performance of the game. It's just an organization feature that I like to use. So I'll be creating multiple folders inside our object types folder. You do not need to do that, it's not necessary. Other than that, I don't think I use anything that is not available in the free version. Let's go ahead and create some of the sprites that we're going to need to use. I'm going to double click somewhere out here in the layout, and I'm scroll down and choose sprite and place it wherever. I'm going to place it somewhat close to my viewport here. Now I'm going to resize it to 20 by 20. And then with my origin tool selected, I'm going to hit 7 on the number keypad on the far right side of your keyboard. That will put it at the top left, or you can come over here to origin, right click, quick assign, top left. Okay, zoom in. Now I'm going to make sure my bounding box fits the whole sprite, and then with the fill tool, I'm going to pick an orange color. Let's take this hue down, something like that. I want my saturation all the way up, and I'm just going to make it brighter. On the HSL tab, that's hue, saturation, and luminance, these are the values that I've plugged in. If you want to follow along exactly what I have, you can use these or choose whatever color you want. This is going to be the bumpers or the border around our golf course. So I'm just going to fill that. We can exit out of that. And I'm going to rename this bumper. Actually, I misspelled that. Bumper. There we go. I'll move that over there. So with this selected, I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to choose clone object type. And then I'll place it somewhere below that, and then we can double click to go in it. And I'm just going to, with the fill tool selected, I'm going to pick a green color somewhere. I'm going to pick, let's see, something like that. Take that saturation down, and we can bump the luminance up a little. Let's go right about there. Maybe take the saturation down a little more. Okay, something like that. Looks like kind of like artificial turf, like you would see on a putting green. Maybe a little more saturation. Okay, so these are the values I'm going to go with, and I'm just going to fill this. All the rest of this is the same because we cloned it, so we don't have to mess with any of that. Let's X out of that. Let's rename this grass. And a couple of others that I'm going to use eventually. I want to, let's clone this again. So right click, clone object type, place it, go into it. I'm going to want a sand color. I'm going to try to select a brown color. Let's move that hue over. Looks good. Take the saturation down a little. I don't know. Maybe something like that. Alright, so I'm going to go with that. I'm going to fill it. Everything else stays the same. I'm going to rename this sand. And then I will right click, clone object type, place it. Let's double click to go in it, and let's pick a water color. So with my fill tool selected, I'm going to change the hue to, let's go over somewhere about there, and I'm going to brighten this up about like that, and I'll take my saturation down a little, and I think that'll work. So those are my values for water. I'm going to fill that. Everything else still stays the same. Let's rename it water. All right, now that we got the easy ones out of the way, I'm going to double click out here in the layout. Let's pick sprite again, place it somewhere over here, and I am going to resize it to 15 by 15. Zoom in a little here. Let's pick the origin tool and make sure it's right in the center. And we'll mess with the collision box here in a minute. I'm going to select the circle tool, and I'm going to pick a pure white. So this is our pure white values. With the circle tool selected, make sure you have border checked, none of the rest, and our border thickness of 1. I'm going to start in the top left corner and I'm click and drag out to the bottom right corner. That gives us a symmetrical circle, and then I'll just fill it with white. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and I'm going to select the bounding box tool and just right click on any one of these points and say guess polygon shape. And then we can go in here and kind of clean this up and do it like that. That looks good. So something like that. I think that'll work. Oops, not that. There we go. So something like that. We have a little octagon shape going on. Let's X out of that. I'm going to rename this ball. And then we can double click. Let's create another sprite. Place it somewhere up here. And I'm going to resize this to 23 by 23. All right. Pick our origin right in the center. And I'm going to take the circle tool again, and I'm going to pick a pure black. That's all zeros. So same thing with the circle tool, border checked, border thickness of 1. And I'm going to start in the top left corner. Click, drag to the bottom left corner, get us a symmetrical circle. I'm going to fill it the rest of the way with black, and then I'm going to take the pencil tool, and with a size of 1, I'm just going to fill in these 2 spots on each side because it looks kind of funny to me, and you don't have to do this if you don't want to. It's just visually it looked like it needed to be filled in to me. So, okay, pick the bounding box or the collision box tool and right click on a spot and say guess polygon shape. Now this time we're going to move the collision box inward. And the reason for that is our golf ball is, in real life, it would be spherical. It would be a sphere, a ball. So if the bottom of the ball that is touching the grass was next to the hole, part of the ball could be over the hole and not go into the hole. So really the ball could sit on the edge of the hole and half of it would be covering the top of the hole. So to simulate that in 2D, we're going to bring the collision box in so that when the ball is overlapping the hole, which is an event we're going to use later, it's not going to detect that it made it in the hole until it gets far enough in. So again, we're trying to mimic real life situations here. So I'm going to turn my grid on, and what I've done, if you go into Configure Grid, I picked the grid color of white because we're messing with a solid black object, and the white grid shows up. I also have a grid width and height of 1 pixel. So let's go in, and I'm going to move these points around. I'm going to come in 4 pixels and try to keep it in the middle where it was, and then go to the side, do the same thing, move it in 4 pixels from the edge. Same thing down here, 4 pixels from the bottom, and 4 pixels that way. Alright, now we can zoom out and we can take care of these corner pieces and just kind of make it look like an octagon with even length edges here. Yep, it's pretty close at least. I'm going to X out of that. I'm going to name this hole. Alright, let's make another sprite. Let's double click and pick sprite. Place it over here. And I am going to resize this a width of 1 pixel and the height of 150. Alright, so our bounding box does not matter. Our origin does. So we want this to be the bottom center, which is 2 on the keypad, or right click, quick assign bottom. I'm going to pick the paintbrush tool. So if we select that, we have some new options up here. I'm going to take the size and make it 150, and the hardness I'm going to take all the way down. And then I want to pick a pure white color. So if you can see, what's happening is as the edge of the paintbrush reaches towards the top, it fades to a 0 alpha. And your alpha over here is how transparent the color is. So let's just go ahead and try this out. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, and I'm going to try to get to where it starts fading to completely transparent towards the top. So maybe something kind of like that. And I'm just going to click to paint it, and then I'm going to pick the erase tool, or actually I'm going to pick the eyedropper tool, and then I can zoom in, and I can show you if I click right here, see we have an alpha of 5. Now down here, obviously our color is a little more apparent, and if I click, our alpha is 36. So 36, 29, 26, it just keeps going down, and then we finally get to 0. And that's only 3 pixels from the end. I'm cool with that. So it fades off as it gets to the end. So I'm going to come down here somewhere in the middle, and I'm going to find where it's 255, because 255 is where it's solid and there's no transparency. And it would seem that I don't, oh, there it is. So with the eyedropper tool, I've tested around till I found the 255 mark, and it's right there. So now I'm going to hit E on my keyboard. That brings up my eraser tool, and I'm just going to erase from that point going down. And I can zoom out because it starts to fade again towards the bottom because the paintbrush tool is a giant circle. All right, so I can zoom out, and then with my pure white selected and my alpha all the way up to 255, I'm going to select the fill tool, and in this blank space, I'm going to fill it. So now we have our aiming device. It's solid white here, and then about halfway it starts fading subtly to the very tip. All right, let's X out of that. Let's rename it Aim. And we have one more sprite to make. Let's double click, pick sprite, and click anywhere. Let's resize this to 10 by 10. And I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to make the origin right in the middle. And then with the fill tool, I'm just going to pick like a pink or purplish pinkish color and fill it. This doesn't matter. We won't see it in the final game. It's just going to be a reference point. So we can X out of that. Let's rename this ball underscore spawner. This is going to spawn our ball for each hole that we play. All right. We will get to that a little later. All right, that gets us set up with all our sprites. Well, we actually have a few more sprites to create, but we will do those at a later time when we get to them. So for now, I'm going to create some subfolders. If you have a free version, you won't be able to do this. Not a big deal, but if you have a subscription, let's go ahead and add a subfolder and call this one Sprites. Add another subfolder, call this one Text, and then add one more subfolder and call this one Input. So if you right click on the object types folder, we can say add new object type. And that's just like double clicking on the layout. So that brings this up. Let's scroll down to Input and select Touch. So Touch is now inserted in our object types folder. I'm going to slide that up into the Input folder. And now I can close it. Then I'm going to highlight all my sprites that we created and slide those into the sprites folder. All right, now we'll make text a little later on, so we will need that. But for now, that gets us set up. So I will see you in the next video, and we can lay out our first hole. Don't forget to save.